Thanks for joining me today, everybody. I hope you don't mind, but we're about to get a little cagey. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Welcome to Thumb Together TV. My name is Andrew Fantasia, and today we are going to be talking about Luke Cage Season 2 together. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up and give some love to that subscribe button as well. Let's talk about the Marvel Netflix shows for a quick second here. I feel like they're just kind of a hit or miss kind of thing. Really loved Daredevil, preferred season 1, but season 2 was good too. I really loved season 1 of Jessica Jones. Season 2 was okay. Luke Cage season 1, the first half was great, but then once Diamondback showed up, ouch, that ended up being my least favorite season of Marvel Netflix ever. Iron Fist was a close second for least favorite, man. That was not great. And I haven't even seen The Punisher yet. But there's clearly a sort of roller coaster dip and rise in the quality of these Netflix shows. And so far, at least in terms of Daredevil and Jessica Jones, season 1 has always been better than season 2, at least in my opinion. Luke Cage changed that. I'm happy to report that Luke Cage season 2 is miles better than Luke Cage season 1. If you haven't seen Cage season 1 yet, I'm going to drop some spoilers in there because I have to at this point. I was really disappointed because of these 4 characters, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, of those 4, initially, Luke Cage was my favorite. Before I saw any of these shows, if you would have thrown those 4 characters in front of me and been like, which one do you like, Andrew? I'd have pointed out Luke Cage. Of those 4, he's just the coolest guy. He's a cool superhero. He's a nice dude. I like him more than the other 3. Daredevil, never was a fan of, him himself. He was just kind of I like to brood all the time. Also, I'm blind. It just didn't do anything for me. But Luke Cage I always really liked. So I was really bummed when at the end of the day, his premiere Netflix season ended up being the one that I liked the least. Among the reasons why that was the case was mainly the big reason that everybody talks about. You had this great villain played by Mahershala Ali. I think I'm saying his name right. But he played that villain Cottonmouth, Cornell Stokes, and he was superb. He was great. And they killed him off halfway through the season. And I'm totally okay with that. Because, you know what? That amps it up. That creates stakes. That's shocking. So sure, if it fits the story, kill him off like that. And the character who killed him off, his cousin Mariah, she is one of Marvel's best villains, hands down. She is so fascinating to watch. Alfre Woodard, who plays her, is so great at playing these 2 sides to this woman where she can have this public face where she's all demure and she's like, welcome my friends to my charity foundation. Please come enjoy yourselves. I'm Mariah Dillard and I love you all. And then she can, close a door and sit down at her desk and be like, kill the whole damn lot of them. I don't care. Ba-bang, ba-bang. And I'm just like, this woman is so insane. The actress just does a tremendous job bringing her to life because she's completely unpredictable. She's a loose cannon in every sense of the word. So that makes her frightening and it makes her fascinating and you just can't take your eyes off her when she's on screen. So when she killed Cottonmouth in season 1, I was like, okay, dope. She's our villain. And she was kind of, demure is not the right word, but she was kind of playing second fiddle to Cottonmouth. So I liked that idea where it's like, okay, she's stepping up. She's the real bad guy here. She overcame this sort of meekness she had and swept Cottonmouth out of the way and is like, nah. I'm the queen. This is my turf. But that's not what really happened. Instead, Cottonmouth was replaced with Diamondback. And Diamondback just comes out of nowhere, completely unsubtle. He's just a wild-eyed, crazy man who's like, I hate you, Luke Cage. And also, I'm kind of your adopted brother. And also, I have a suit that makes me as strong as you. And also, let's fight. That is not good. That is not good writing at all. That was I don't know anybody who thought that was a good idea. Clearly, the Marvel people have listened because this season they actually wrote a good story. And the villains were actually interesting to watch. Another thing that really bothered me about season 1 was the show needed to stop talking about Harlem. It really did. I get it. Luke Cage is from Harlem. So yeah, bring that up. That's part of his character. That's great. That's fine. But every freaking 20 seconds, somebody was just like, you know what I love? Harlem. Oh, not as much as I do. Like, they just could not stop talking about it. If Harlem was a person, it would have filed a restraining order against this show and been like, listen, I'm flattered, but back the F off of me already. I mean, there were so many moments where just like something would happen where Luke Cage would like just fight crime or something so normal for the show. Like Luke would be like, hey, there's a gangster over there. Hey, boom, get out of here, gangster. I saved the day. And the people he saved, the regular townspeople, the civilians, would just kind of look and their reaction would not be like, wow, thanks, Luke Cage, or whatever. Their reaction would be like, Harlem, baby, Harlem. I'm like, look, you're alienating every audience member who does not live in Harlem, because there are a lot of us. If you're a fan of the show and you live in Harlem, then I'm sure you're like, yes, you know, that's my hometown, that's my neighborhood right there, and that's great. And I'm glad that, you know, you can have that. It's nice to have that. I wish my town had that. That'd be a lot of fun. But when the show is so in your face about it, I feel like everybody else who doesn't live in Harlem is just sitting there. It's like, okay, I get it. I take your word for it. Yes, I'm sure that's a very popular street in Harlem, because when you said its name, all the characters were like, yeah, baby, Harlem. I get it. Please just move on with the story. Please. And then when the story moved on and Diamondback showed up, I'm like, okay, maybe just go back to talking about Harlem now. But those were my biggest gripes with season 1 of Luke Cage. And season 2 really fixed those for me. It did. The Harlem stuff is still there, but it's downplayed. I guess the characters remembered that there were other things to talk about and other ways to react to things other than, I stubbed my toe. Isn't Harlem fantastic? And this time around, the story is much more focused. It's not like they just chopped things in half and had a good half and a shit half. This season is what I thought the latter half of season 1 was going to be once Cottonmouth was out of the way, which is Mariah is Queen of Harlem's Paradise and she is the ultimate villain, and Luke Cage has to take her down, but she's not going down easy. And, you know, she's surrounded by her guys and she's got Shades, like, right next to her. Shades is always, like, ready to defend her. He's, like, attached to her at the hip. And it's just this great crime drama that just unfolds back and forth with all these different gangs getting into the mix, and that was what I wanted to see, baby. Thank God that finally happened. Now there's going to be some spoilers from this point forward for season 2, so you have been warned. Watch the season. Trust me, it is worth it. So Mariah and Shades are the rightful villains of this whole story, as they should be. But we also get a new villain who's kind of not a villain, but still a villain for a while, and that is the character Bushmaster. And I love the hell out of Bushmaster, because he shows up, he comes to Harlem from Jamaica. At first we know nothing about him. He's just this really scary dude, and he's very strong, and he can take down Luke Cage, and he's fast too. He's like a ninja. So we're like, oh damn, this guy's frightening. I wonder what's gonna happen. As the story goes on, we're just like, oh, this guy's not evil. This poor man, I back him. At least I was feeling this way, but I was like, I back this dude 100% because of everything that happened to him when he was a kid, and it happened because of Mariah and her family. And Mariah's family, man, that is an evil family. Like, you thought Mariah was twisted, and she is, and you thought Cottonmouth was twisted, and he was, but they grew up under the thumb of two horrible, despicable human beings, and those human beings not only ruined Mariah and Cottonmouth, but they ruined the life of this other poor boy in Jamaica who was just an innocent bystander in all of this. He wanted revenge, and I can't say I blame him. So he comes to Harlem as the Bushmaster, and he's getting shit done. By the time we learn his story, I was 100% on board with this guy. I was like, yes. When he showed up, I'm like, yeah, if I could have had a Bushmaster flag, I would have been waving it. Been like, yeah, man, get her. Get Mariah. And of course, Luke Cage, who's the virtuous hero, he doesn't want to save Mariah because she's a big meanie, but he doesn't want to let anybody die either, so he's got to sort of stand between these two villain characters and be like, hey, stop it. Can't we work out our differences? In the meantime, he's just like, if you tear yourselves apart, I don't care. I can finally get a good night's sleep if that's the case. If you really liked Killmonger from Black Panther, I would go so far as to say that Bushmaster is an even more sympathetic villain than Killmonger. Yeah, I said it. Quote me. I don't give a damn. Harlem, baby. Speaking of quoting, all I've been doing is quoting Bushmaster, like, since I've watched this show, because he's so great. And there's a moment he has that's, like, so simple but so profound. And I was like, you know what? I want to be more like Bushmaster. And if there's ever a moment in my life where I have to fight somebody physically, A, I'll probably lose. But B, I'm going to say what Bushmaster said, because it's so damn cool. And before the fight starts, I'm just going to look into the eyes of the person I'm fighting, and I'm just going to shake my head sadly and say, we could have been brethren. I love this man. And the best part is, he survives to see another day. So we could potentially get Bushmaster back in season 3. And he might even come back as even more of a heroic character, because his revenge arc is over. And now he's at peace, more or less. I hope. But one of the many things I loved about this character was his strength. Like, he was strong enough to, he could punch Luke Cage and Luke would be like, ow, you punched me. And he got that strength from voodoo. He would mix these certain ingredients together, and it would reveal through, like, magic, through voodoo magic, like, the inner strength that he had. He used this stuff called Nightshade, and apparently Nightshade doesn't do this to everybody, but he was already a very strong individual somehow, I guess spiritually. So the Nightshade brought that out. I'm not 100% sure how it works, but that's sort of the gist of what I got. And he bought this Nightshade when he came to New York from a herbal medicine shop that happened to be run by Mariah Dillard's daughter, Tilda. And this is another character from the comics. This is Deadly Nightshade. And in the comics, I believe she's a villain. And at the end of this season, we see her in her costume. She's got like the headband and the 2 little afro puffs on her head, kind of like a Princess Leia kind of thing. And she's in the black dress, and she's not happy, and she's mad at Luke Cage. And I think that means that come season 3, she's going to be the main antagonist. And I really like that idea. But why would she be the main antagonist in season 3? Well, because Mariah Dillard finally bites it. It took 2 whole seasons, but they finally took down this woman. She was a force of nature, to be sure. She rampaged through the crime world and made her mark. But it was finally her daughter, of all people, who took her down by putting this poisonous paste that she made in her little herb shop on her lips, and then she kissed her mom goodbye, and Mariah started vomiting blood, and she was like, my daughter did this to me, and she dies. And that was a really cool moment. That was appropriately dark. This woman is having a conversation with Luke Cage at the end of everything, and these 2 enemies are just staring at one another in this jail visiting room, and then Mariah starts freaking out and spitting blood and stuff, and she falls on the ground, and Luke Cage like holds her hand, and he's like, what's going on? And because he's such a nice guy, he says to her, he's like, I won't leave you alone. Like, you're dying, and I'm fine with that because you're a horrible person, but I won't leave you alone. I'll stay here with you until you're gone. And she's like, thank you. And like the blood is like bubbling up in her mouth, and she says, it burns. And in what might be the greatest line of all of Marvel, Luke just stares at her and he says, good. Yes! Harlem, baby! But what a way for a great villain to go out. In an awesome little epilogue scene, her will is being read by her lawyer, and she left the keyboard that Cornell used to play on to her daughter, because her daughter is a very good pianist and she's got a beautiful singing voice. But she leaves the club, she leaves Harlem's Paradise to Luke Cage. And now Luke is sort of like a crime boss running this club, and he's got these connections all over the city because he told the criminals to stay out of Harlem. He kind of put up a wall around it, so essentially he's kind of crime boss, but not really. And Nightshade's not having that because she's like, that club is my birthright. I'm going to be the villain next season. Booyah! And that's where we leave off. That was such a good crime drama. That was on the level of like some of the best episodes of Sons of Anarchy. That's how this season felt. Like, it was just a gritty street drama with all these colorful criminal characters duking it out for supremacy, and shit gets dangerous and shit gets real. And at the end of the day, we got a great story out of it. A story that I wish season 1 could have been more like, that's for sure. But going into season 3, I hope to see obviously more of Luke, more of Nightshade. Shades survived, but he's in prison. I hope to see more Shades because that character is great, man. He rocked it this season. More of Misty Knight because she's an awesome character too. Obviously bring Rosario Dawson back because she has to be in every season. That's like a tradition now. Another thing that kind of annoyed me about season 1 that season 2 also did a lot, and I wanted to save it for now to talk about it, was whenever we get scenes in Harlem's Paradise, there's always a musical guest who shows up and plays music or sings a song. And sometimes it's a really famous musician. Other times you can tell it's like, somebody who's like a more indie singer, maybe in the Harlem area in real life, and they just kind of thought, hey, let's give this person some love and put them out there so people can see them perform. And I like that. That's beautiful. That's a great way to get these up-and-coming musicians out in the limelight. But having said that, when you spend like 4.5 minutes of screen time, and that's not an exaggeration, but 4.5 minutes of screen time just showing these musicians playing per episode, it's like, okay, can we move on to the story, please? Do I really... I mean, yes, this man playing the guitar and singing a jazz song has a wonderful voice, and he is very talented. But do I have to... I want to watch the story. I want to watch the characters and see the story progress. Why do I have to waste 4 minutes listening to a song? Like, I don't care. When people watch Saturday Night Live, nobody's like, oh man, I can't wait for the musical guest. No, they want to see the skits. And that's what I feel when this happens. It's just like, oh, please move on. Please just get the pace moving. It's a double-edged sword. Like I said, they're giving love to these indie musicians, and that is fantastic. That needs to happen more. But, I don't know, could you just do it with less screen time? Could you just, find a way to do it so it doesn't eat into the story time? These episodes are like 58 minutes a piece. They're chunky episodes, and you could whittle that down to 54 by just cutting down on them musicians, you follow? So here's hoping season 3 tackles that in a much more time-efficient way. As it stands right now, I'm happy to report Luke Cage season 2 is right up there with Daredevil season 1 for my favorite Marvel Netflix season. It was terrific. Personally, you're looking at a man whose favorite comic book character, period, ever is the Kingpin. So obviously I'm gonna love Daredevil. Vincent D'Onofrio is like transcendent as the Kingpin. He's so good. And I can't wait for season 3 because I'm hoping he has a bigger role again. He got kind of shortchanged in season 2, but that's understandable. So I want to see the Kingpin again. I was hoping he would cameo at the end of Luke Cage because we see a lot of New York crime bosses, but I guess he's still in prison. I just want some Kingpin. That's all I want in my life. And I want him, if I can just get Vincent D'Onofrio in that white suit with a cane, I can die happy. So I'm looking forward to Daredevil 3 more than anything else. More than Punisher, more than Defenders 2, if that ever happens. More than Iron Fist 2. Iron Fist I could take or leave at this point. I'm so thrilled with how Luke Cage Season 2 turned out, and now I'm ready and willing for Season 3. The show absolutely redeemed itself, and I don't think I've ever seen a show redeem itself so swiftly and so dramatically as Luke Cage did. So that is Luke Cage Season 2. That's Thumb Together TV. Thank you for watching. I'll see you here next time. Until then, adios. Harlem, baby. Harlem.